As tensions continue to rise between Iran and Israel, both countries are holding large-scale aerial exercises. The Islamic Republic of Iran Air Force, IRIAF, on Thursday started the main and operational phase of a large-scale military drill codenamed Devotees of the Velayat Sanctuary. Iranian Air Force Commander Brigadier General Hamid Vahedi said that on the first day of the military exercise, the force's F-7 fighter aircraft targeted the hypothetical enemy's positions with Yasin-90 standoff bombs developed by local experts. Also, F-4 and F-5 jets of the Air Force destroyed the enemy's vital targets on land and sea, he noted. The IRIAF's fighter interceptor aircraft meanwhile exercised air combat maneuvers at altitudes, the commander said. Other aircraft used in the drill on Thursday included Sukhoi Su-27s, F-14s, Mirage F-1s, and MiG-29s, according to General Vahedi. During this military drill, different types of drones, laser and radar missiles as well as types of rockets and bombs made by Iranian specialists have also been used. All stages of the war game are being conducted under the command and direction of the IRIAF headquarters with the supervision of experts of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of the Islamic Republic of Iran and the Khatam al-Anbiya Central Base, he went on to say. Iran's armed forces hold routine military exercises throughout the year to enhance their capabilities to defend the country. Iranian officials have repeatedly underscored that the country will not hesitate to strengthen its military capabilities and that Iran's defense capabilities will be never subject to negotiations. Meanwhile, Israel and 7 nations, Germany, Italy, Britain, France, India, Greece and the US, are participating in Blue Flag 2021, the largest and most advanced aerial exercise ever held in the Jewish state. This year's drills will focus on the integration of 4th and 5th generation aircraft, including the F-35 Adur in complex operational scenarios, the Israeli military said. IDF Chief of Staff Lieutenant Gen. Aviv Kahavi visited the drill on Thursday and was informed of what was learned so far. This is an important and significant exercise at both the strategic and tactical level, he said, adding that the unique cooperation with the air forces from around the world is an expression of the strategic state of Israel. The exercise will focus on broadening and enhancing the operational capabilities of the participating forces, with a focus on air-to-air and air-to-ground attacks, as well as evading ground-based air defense systems and various operational scenarios in enemy territory, the Army said. The 2-week drill, which is taking place in the Negev desert out of Uvda Air Base, marks the first time that a British fighter squadron has been deployed to Israel since the establishment of the state, as well as the first time that India has sent a Mirage fighter squadron to Israel, and that France has deployed a Raphael squadron to the Jewish state. Israel Air Force Commander Major Gen. Amikam Norkin, who took part in a symbolic flyover over Jerusalem alongside his German counterpart Lieutenant Gen. Ingo Gerhertz last week said that the threats posed to Israel continue to increase and that the drill is a stepping stone toward cooperation with other countries in the region. We are living in a very complicated region, and the threats to the state of Israel from Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, and Iran are only increasing, he said. Holding an international exercise in this current reality, while continuing our public and covert operational activities on all fronts, is of utmost strategic importance and has an extensive impact over the Israeli Air Force, the IDF and the State of Israel. This exercise is groundbreaking in terms of technology, quality of training, and the number of participating nations. It illustrates the partnership and strong bond between the nation's air forces and acts as a stepping stone toward regional and international cooperation, Norkin said. The Iranian Air Force remains a fascinating subject for many defense and aviation enthusiasts. The recent rise of tensions in the region have meant that its capabilities, or lack thereof, are of crucial importance should the US or others undertake any kind of military action. The IRIAF should therefore be considered not so much as a potent and dangerous force, but more a fleet in being, for which planners have to account and determine how it might be contained in order to allow for the prosecution of a swift air campaign against targets such as Iranian ballistic missiles and associated IRGC forces. In one regard, a potential US fight, arguably the most likely participant, with the Iranian Air Forces would be an unbalanced contest. The combination of 4th and 5th generation aircraft would clearly defeat anything that the Iranian Air Force could possibly generate. However, contemporary wars are not fought on such clear terms under which either side unleashes all that it could. Various row could significantly degrade both sides' ideal plan of attack. Even more so, the objectives of an air war with Iran are unlikely to be complete demolition of the whole force. A future war in the Gulf area would be as political as military, and hence a basic top-trump comparison of forces is insufficient. Before considering the aircraft themselves, it is worth pondering the background and probable doctrine of the IRIAF. While most NATO air forces have been for years focused on counter-insurgency operations, Iran has faced primarily a peer threat since 1979. Beyond the war with Iraq, the ongoing contest with Israel and the GCC has played a key part in forming the approach of Iran's Air Force commanders. The Iranian use of the F-14 as an airborne command and control platform was relatively novel in the 1980s and, while absolute data is unavailable or open to question, the force handled itself relatively favorably against Iraq. The approach and structure of the air element arguably focused on the degradation of peer enemy assets and, given the historical precedent of nasty surprises from enemies considered weak, it would be well not to underestimate a body with much experience of its airframes and the lessons drawn from the murky but ongoing Sadovos conflict with the very capable Israeli Air Force. However, despite the recent domestic upgrade of a MiG-29, and ignoring the somewhat embarrassing KR-313, any sensible analysis must conclude that the operation of such a mixed and mostly legacy US fleet has probably led to very low availability rates. Whatever success local industry might have achieved, keeping the legendary Tomcat flyable in any meaningful combat sense with no assistance from the OEM is probably impossible. Flight Global's 2020 estimate of over 20 F-14s, 60 F-4s, 20 MiG-29s, and around the same number of Su-24s is likely generous. It is doubtful that more than half would get off the ground at any one time.